In this video, we're going to study two ways to integrate our applications with the characteristics of the devices. First, we'll see the semantic domains that will provide some forms of basic integration, and then we'll see some of the most common APIs provided by GeneXus when using smart devices. Applications need to integrate with the features offered by intelligent devices. For example, they should be able to make phone calls, open web content, send messages through chat or email programs installed, access and use the Contacts application, camera, GPS and map applications, as well as interact with applications such as Facebook and Twitter. Some of these features are automatically implemented through semantic domains or data types with semantics. Next, we'll talk about the ones we have available. For example, the address domain is used to store addresses. At runtime, if the attribute or variable defined over this domain is read-only, tapping on it takes us to the default map application installed on our device and shows that address. In the example, we can see the speakers view, and tapping on the address, since the attribute is based on the address domain, shows the map using Google Maps. The email domain is similar, but it's used to store email addresses. Also, when the attribute or variable is read-only, tapping on it will open the default application to send email messages. On the same speaker screen, tapping on the email opens the email application, in this case, Gmail. The image domain is used to store images. In edit mode, the user will be asked if he wants to take a picture using the device camera or if he wants to select an image from the gallery. The default gallery app is automatically opened. The image is shown in read-only mode. Here is the speaker's edit screen, and tapping on the image allows us to change it using the camera or the gallery. The phone domain is used to store phone numbers. When the attribute or variable is read-only, tapping on it will open the default phone call application. Again, in the speaker's view, tapping on the phone will open the default phone call application. Lastly, there's a URL domain used to represent web addresses. Just like the previous ones, when it's read-only, tapping on it will open the default browser. In the example, we see the restaurants view, and tapping on the web address will open the default browser. In addition, GeneXus provides APIs that can be used to interact with different characteristics or applications of the device. All the APIs, SDTs, and processes required by these APIs are located in the GeneXus module below the references node. All of these modules are imported when the knowledge base is created. At first sight, we can see some special APIs for SD, APIs for the web, and others that can be used for either platform, such as those of the common module. Let's see some of them. The client submodule contains the Client Information API. This interface is frequently used to obtain device properties such as unique ID, operating system, and device version or type. We'll use it, for example, to save the user's favorite sessions. Because the user hasn't been registered yet, we use the device ID. Another frequently used API is Interop within the SD submodule, which offers several methods to interact with common functions. These include send message to send a text message, play video or play audio to play multimedia files, place call to make a call, send email to send an email, message to show a message to the user, confirm to ask the user for confirmation before running an action, and so on. The common submodule contains the Maps API, which can be used for the web and SD. It allows us to calculate paths and get the routes between 2 points. Many of these APIs require structured data, so you'll see that they use predefined SDTs, such as root of the module GeneXus.common. The Actions API of the SD module provides standard methods to call the login and logout function of the app. We'll see this in detail when we study the GAM. Go to Home, which returns to the initial object. Return to allows us to specify an object different than the previous one to return to. Save, cancel, delete. The objects generated by the work with pattern are used to encapsulate the calls to business components. And take application screenshot to capture the device's screen. The Calendar API allows us to generate an event in the device's default calendar application. The Contacts API allows us to interact with the contacts application of the device, to add contacts, delete them, see the information of a contact, or get the entire list. They're both located in the SD submodule. There's a Network API that allows us to know if there's a connection with the server at a given moment and the connection type. The Client Storage API allows us to save and retrieve values. They're similar to cookies, but stored on the device. They're both located in the SD submodule. The Scanner API, also in the SD submodule, allows us to use the device's camera to scan QR or barcodes. It has methods to scan a single code, and in this case, it returns the value in a variable of char type or in a loop. Lastly, it returns a list of all the scanned codes in a collection based on the Scanned Barcode Scanner SDT. In the next video, we'll see how to use other APIs and build an example in our application.